I'm Lisa Burkhart-Worley, and welcome to Pop Talk, the show where you never know what topics might pop up. Have you ever heard of a floating hospital? Well, that exists, and they're doing some great work around Africa. We're going to tell you all about that in just a minute, but before I introduce our guest today, I want to introduce our Pop Talk co-host, Rosemary LeGrand.
Hello, everyone.
It's good to see you, Rosemary.
As usual.
Love the red.
Thank you.
It's power color.
I got the memo.
Well, you know, when we were at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, we had these booths, right? And so Pop had a booth there among many, many booths, but God placed us strategically next to a booth called Mercy Ships. It's an organization that has a floating hospital, and they take care of people who need assistance, who need surgeries, who need health care in Africa. And so I got to talking to Laura Rebouche, who is doing the PR for Mercy Ships. Plus, they sponsored an event that we were at, and we saw this great video. I mean, we're going to show you that video here in a minute. But I thought, when I found out they were in Texas, where we tape, I said, we have to have them on the show. And so I checked in with Laura Rebouche and said, can y'all be on Pop Talk? And she said yes. And I'm just so glad you're here to talk about Mercy Ships. It's just an amazing organization. And I just love it's just a ton of people that come together to do this great work in Africa. So why don't you tell us about how it all started, Laura?
Okay, thanks so much for having me. It's such a great opportunity for me to talk with you and your audience and Rosemary to just make people aware of what Mercy Ships does and how we started. And it was a true vision. And Mercy Ships, we're an organization where our mission is to provide hope and healing for the world's forgotten poor. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, we use state-of-the-art ships, hospital ships, to perform these life-saving, life-changing surgeries for those individuals that have limited access or no access to health care. Yeah. And so Mercy Ships was started in 1978 by Don and Dion Stevens. And Don, he was impacted by several things. He saw human suffering during a hurricane in 1964 where people were praying for a ship to rescue them. Mm. He read a book called The SSS Hope. Mm. It was an international hospital ship bringing care to those that didn't have any access to medical care. His disabled son, John Paul, was born. And he had a brief encounter with Mother Teresa. Mm. And all of these things made him more committed to looking at how he could help the world's neediest people. And so during his time with Mother Teresa, he sat down and she asked him 3 questions. She said, why were you born? She said, where, I'm sorry. She said, what are you doing with your dream? And then she said, where's your pain? Mm. And so all of these questions, Don thought about it, and his answers were, I'm going to go out and find suitable ships to change to hospital ships, to convert to hospital ships, and take care of people. So he found an ocean liner. It's called the Victoria. The scrap value was $1 million. They bought the ship. They started doing all the retrofitting and the converting, and it took 4 years. When it was completed, there was a crew of 350 people, and Don and Dion and their 4 children went on the ship, and they lived on the ship for 10 years. Mm. Wow. And then after that, we had, I forgot to mention that the Victoria was renamed the Anastasis. So when the ship was ready to be deployed, it was called the Anastasis. And then we had several ships after that. We had the Caribbean Mercy, we had the Good Samaritan, and we had the Africa Mercy. And the Africa Mercy is the one that was currently in service when COVID had occurred. So we were, performing our surgeries, changing people's lives, and then COVID occurred, and we had to stop all the surgeries. So all the people we had promised surgeries to were looking for these life-changing events for their lives to change, and we had to leave. And it was so hard for our volunteers,
I bet.
And of course so hard for the Senegalese people. But during COVID, we've had boots on the ground. We have people in Togo, we have people in Benin that are working with local, in-country doctors, dentists, to train them to help their people during this period. And then also right now, our country engagement team is in Senegal getting ready for the Africa Mercy return. And I'm so happy to report it looks as though through lots of planning and just lots of prayers, and by the grace of God, we're going to return to Senegal the first quarter of 2022 with the Africa Mercy.
Awesome.
Amen.
Awesome.
That's good. I was going to ask that question. When do you think you're going back?
Right. And then our newest ship, which we're so proud of, it's been 8 years in the making. It's the largest non-governmental hospital ship. It's purposely built to be a hospital ship, and it will double the size of the Africa Mercy. And currently it's in Antwerp, and we are outfitting it with surgical equipment, surgical facilities, so it will be ready to be deployed also in 2022, also in Africa.
I got a quick question. It's just my mind. The way
okay.
you change out ships. So is it like a car? I mean,
Well, it will be different now because the Africa Mercy is a 50-year-old ship. So we take these ships, and when we go into country, they're there for 10 months. Well, the Africa Mercy, after 10 months, we have to take it, back and retrofit it, check everything for a couple of months, and then we deploy it to a different country. Well, because the Global Mercy is brand new, that whole system will change. But once the Global Mercy is ready, and it goes to, the plan is for it to go to Senegal, where the Africa Mercy is, and then the staff that's on the Africa Mercy will go over to the Global Mercy, and the Africa Mercy will go back and be retrofitted and readied again. And then shortly thereafter, hopefully, we'll have both the Global Mercy and the Africa Mercy serving Africa. So doubling the impact.
wow.
Wow, that's awesome. So this has been going on for about 40 years.
A little over 40 years, yeah.
How often do you set sail, and how do you find your your professional medical staff and the crews to actually work on the Mercy ship? And I'm going to ask another question, though. Are they paid staff, or are they all volunteers?
Okay. So I'll try to remember all this. Here we go.
We'll remind you.
I'll remind you.
Typically our ships are deployed to field service for 10 months. And like I said, with the Global Mercy, it will be a little different, but yet we are planning 10 months in the countries that we serve.
Okay.
And during that time, we have done approximately 2,000 surgeries during that 10-month field service. Now, of course, that will grow as we have both ships in service. And finding our employees, our volunteers. Our volunteers are the heart of the mission. And they bring so much energy and so much passion to what they do, and they sacrifice so much. I recently had a donor who told me, he said, he's one of our largest donors, and he said, you know what, Laura? He said, I visited the ships many years ago, and he said, I went on the ship, and I was overwhelmed by how passionate and how happy the volunteers were in their work. He said they love what they do. Most volunteers, we have different positions, and there are different time periods that are required, and they can come on the ship anywhere from 2 weeks to months. We have a doctor that took his family on the ship. He's been with Mercy Ships for 36 years.
Oh, wow.
So he comes in and out?
Yes. During the time that it goes back for retrofitting, they have their time with their families or whatever off the ship, and with their extended families or on vacation, whatever. But yet we have volunteers, because it is such a life-changing experience from a personal standpoint. They go back and they volunteer again. And then their families. We have people that work with Mercy Ships in Lindale. Their parents worked on the ship, volunteered on the ship. They volunteered on the ship. So it's God's blessing how this all works and comes together.
And do you have a ratio of men and women volunteering?
We do. For the past 3 years, when the Africa Mercy was in service, it was about 60% women and 40% men. And you have to think of our ships as floating cities. So not only do we have the medical professionals, but we also have the cooks. You have to feed the volunteers. We have the mechanics for the vehicles. We have vehicles that transport the patients from their home to the ship and back. We have to have people that drive. We have carpenters. Some of them take care of making shoes for the children and the adults that have clubfoot. We have electricians. We have we have engineers. We have people that do IT, because we have IT systems to be able to communicate on board. And then, of course, we have all the marine personnel, marine ops, the deck officers. And we had on the last deployment, we had 3 women deck officers. So women are in every role imaginable on the ship. And, it's quite amazing, but they all work together, for a common cause. They work on the ship together. They become very, very close. And it's a wonderful environment for them.
So I'm wondering now if there's any downtime. You're working very hard, and do they have entertainment at all on the ship, or just time to just have fun? Or
they do. They have various activities that they do on the ship, and then of course on the weekends. Not everyone can go every weekend, but they do have places that are safe, that like I mentioned, we have vehicles that they transport them to, and they can have an enjoyable weekend. But they have to plan ahead, of course, because we have to put safety in place for our volunteers. But there's always plenty to do on the ship. And like I said, the Global Mercy is going to be even more larger ships, so there's going to be that many more things to do. And we actually have a coffee shop on the ship, So, and then they play games. And then, of course, we have the devotionals that just in their work, day-to-day work. And then we have Christian services twice a week. And then, of course, if any celebrations that they're doing on ship, because at one time we have over 50 nations that are represented on the ship.
Wow,
so you've
that's
got
great.
Different cultures, different languages.
Wow.
Okay,
awesome. So you talked about 2 boats, now 2 ships that you're going to be putting into service, so you're going to cover more area, but it's all in Africa.
Yes,
so why did he choose Africa, Mr. Stevens, when he was looking at doing this, and instead of India or any place else? Why concentrating on Africa?
Well, our mission and our scope has focused on Africa, and it's because if you look at 23 of the 25 countries who have the fewest doctors, it's in Africa. Okay. There are 2 physicians per 10,000 people. Most people don't even have access to basic medical necessities, much less safe, affordable surgery. And so, we basically really work hard to ensure that we focus on those countries that really need, safe medical care. And we really work hard to train boots on the ground. We train the professionals that are in country, so they're able to do, we're starting an infrastructure when we go back to the country. We visit what we were doing before, and we probably will do going forward. It's just all a new territory for us because of COVID. But what we would do is visit a country probably every 2.5 years. We go back to those countries. What we found is when we visit a country, they will have some type of whether it's fractures, cleft lip, cleft palates, whatever the malady is, that when we go back to that country, it's a different one because we did such, we worked so hard to train those in country that is not a major problem in that country, for medical purposes.
Can you talk about the variety of procedures that you perform on patients?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have a couple of stories that you can tell us that is performed on ships?
I do. We have vast medical procedures and surgeries that we do. I'll just highlight some of the major ones that are very, to us in the U.S., we take it for granted. Over there, like I said, they're life-changing or they're miracles. I'll start out with one of my favorite, and it'll be kind of a story in there as well. Cataracts. When we get cataracts in the U.S., we take care of it. We go to the doctor, 30 minutes, we're done. It never gets to the point where it's really impacting our vision to a point that we're blind. Well, in Africa, they don't have that luxury. They don't have ophthalmologists that can do that. So we find that we have patients that have been blind for 20, 30 years. They've never been able to see. And all it is a 30-minute surgery, and they can see again. We had this woman, she was in her 20s. She had twins. She had never seen her twins. Her mother brought her to the ship. She had a surgery of 30 minutes, and shortly thereafter, they took the patches off, and she saw her children for the first time.
Wow.
Now,
That's
if that doesn't take at your heart, what doesn't?
Yes.
We also do, orthopedic. There are fractures, twisted limbs, windswept limbs that have to be repaired. Clubfoot. 80% of fractures and clubfoot are in developing nations, which surprised me. That statistic surprised me.
Yeah.
So you have children that are ridiculed and actually shunned by some of the families because of the way their legs are or their arms are. And it's sad. And, they don't have doctors to fix that. We also have they have these benign facial tumors, and these tumors continue to grow. And they get so large that they end up cutting off circulation and actually suffocating patients because they can't breathe.
Wow.
And we go in and we remove those tumors. They're benign, and they're removed. And then sometimes we have to do reconstructive surgery because they have disfigured some of their faces or their nose or their mouth. But then they're not shunned. They're welcomed in society. And then, like I was talking about, the carpenters, they make the shoes for the people that have had the adults and the children that have had the club feet. Another is dental.
I'm sure that's a biggie.
That's a big thing. Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it's pretty non-existent over there. And if they can get it, it's not affordable. I mean, toothpaste and toothbrushes are luxuries, not necessities. So we have free dental clinics where people come in, we fix we work on their teeth, we train the local dentist on how to, help them. We also train the patients on how to do better, how to have better dental care. So that's one. And then one of those that's very, we see a lot with children and adults are wounds from these incredible burns. They have burns and they have these wounds. Well, what happens is once you've had a scarring on your arm, the muscles tighten up and you lose all dexterity in your limbs.
Right.
So we go in and repair that so they can use their hands again. And you'll see children, because open flames are every day there. They have open flames to cook. So you see that a lot over there. So those are just a few. And, one last success story I'll talk about, because we have, in over 40 years, performed over 100,000 surgeries.
Wow.
So we have tons of success stories out there before and after. But one that really surprised our doctors and nurses was a 12-year-old, and his name was Ulrich. And Ulrich's, he had his legs, the muscles in his legs had never developed to keep up with his bone development. So he was using sticks in his hands to walk. And he was horizontal.
Oh, wow.
So he had pain in his hands, pain in his arms. And when he came to the ship, he was 12 years old. So for 12 years, he had done that. And one of the doctors, his name was Dr. Frank Hayden, said he had never seen such, someone that had had so much trauma in his life up to that point. And so after several surgeries and several, lots of physical therapy, he was able to stand upright and walk again.
Praise God.
And he, just a miracle.
Yes.
And so on his last day on the African Mercy, he went to Dr. Frank Hayden and he said, I have a gift for you. And it was an irreplaceable gift. He gave him his walking stick.
Oh, how beautiful. You know what? You could take that walking stick and you can make a cross out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
hang it on the wall.
Just such a miracle. And last thing I just want to add about the surgeries, quite a few of our adults and children have to have physical therapy, which you can't do just in a day and say goodbye. And so their families come with them to the ship, and we have what's called the Hope Center. And basically, we go into a country and we retrofit or upgrade an existing facility so that will house the family and the patient until the patient finishes the physical therapy. So while they're there, they get fed and they have a place to stay and sleep.
Wow. That is amazing. So you not only heal people this way and do the surgeries, but you restore dignity to these people.
Yes.
They can stand up straight now. They can see. They're not ridiculed maybe by the society they're in. That is an amazing thing. And so we've been talking a lot about this, but I thought that maybe our audience would like to see what Mercy Ships is doing. So here's a short video so that you can see the miraculous work that is happening on these Mercy Ships.
Over 40 years ago, I took my first trip from Lausanne, Switzerland by train to Italy to look at ships. I listed some of the things that I didn't know or that I'd heard. Things like, you can't do that. It's way too expensive. I didn't know where we would find the crew. In fact, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was 32. That's awfully young. Over 40 years ago, God took a huge risk. I could say that it all started with a hurricane, or reading a book about the famous SS Hope. I could say it started with meeting Mother Teresa, or with the birth of our special needs son, John Paul. Or I could say it began with my parents' simple way with grace and mercy and dignity with their small town helping hands. I could say all of those things about the very beginning of the idea that became Mercy Ships, and they'd all be true.
Mercy Ships is a unique organization because it is bringing services to countries that would otherwise never be able to access those services.
The millions of people who either physically or financially do not have access to healthcare are staggering.
We just see people that need help. You realize that they have no way of getting help, and I want them to know that they're loved.
After the rejection and the ridicule and the hard lives that they've had up until this point, then to have a ward full of nurses and the other ship staff, people just pour out so much love on them. Love does make a difference.
People say to me, well, there's all these millions. How do you think you can change that? And we can change the individuals one life at a time.
Bringing this hospital ship in, it's a state-of-the-art platform. Surgeons, nurses, professionals from all over the world, offering this free of charge at the highest standards is unique.
If you talk to any of the government leaders, as I have, they will tell you how beneficial Mercy Ships has been, not only for their people, but also in terms of a lasting impact.
We're working hard here to leave a legacy of improved healthcare.
Mercy Ships is particularly good at providing not just training, but training with an imbued sense of needing to pass on the training.
We can work together and do things together that we can never do by ourselves.
Wow, Laura, that is amazing, you know? And you guys are a tight community, right? And how close does everyone work together on the Mercy Ships? And does anyone actually live on the Mercy Ship, any one of your crews?
Yes. of course, day to day, interacting with each other, we are a tight community. You pray over each other. I mean, some of the positions, like I had said, you're on the ship. Some people come for a couple of weeks. We have doctors that come for 2 weeks, and they leave their positions and they come and do surgeries for 2 weeks and they leave. But then other positions, they're there for 6 months. Some are there for 10 months. And it is a tight community because you're all interacting in a close space over surgery, over patients. And even on the weekends, you become friends, and they make lifelong friends. But it's just, they're all going for one goal, one mission, to take care of the hope and healing of these patients.
Yes.
So it is close-knit. And I will just offer a personal view. I have not worked on the ship or not volunteered on the ship. I've only been with the organization for a couple of years, but even in the national offices, we have 16 national offices. And our office in Texas, in Lindale, we have a campus there. And we are a tight-knit group. We know the personal struggles everyone has had through COVID. We know the personal struggles you just go through day to day or with your families.
Yeah.
And then work struggles. And we have devotionals, we have prayer groups, we have get-togethers for the whole campus to get together and pray together for each other. And I have never worked for an organization where I felt so truly blessed and felt that everyone that I interacted with truly cares. So we're a Mercy Ships family. And, we have quite a few volunteers. Once they leave the ship, they'll come on campus, or they'll be in one of our national offices, or they just keep in touch with us. We have a lot of alumni personnel as well. But we're a Mercy Ships family. You're always part of a Mercy Ships.
And people can join you, maybe not on the ship, but they can join you in prayer. Can you talk about how people can partner with you through prayer?
Yes, prayer support is just huge. It's really one of those things that without that, I'm not sure we would be doing what we were doing.
Right.
And, we have our partners help us pray for our return to Senegal, our safe return to Senegal. It has been such a struggle with COVID to plan a safe return back to Senegal. And we want to go so bad. We want to get back to doing what we do, taking care of those patients. And we have asked for prayer for the patients, those that have had the surgeries that are doing better, those that were waiting for the surgeries that are looking forward to us returning, and then praying for our volunteers. We have crew now that are working on the Global Mercy. We have crew that will begin working on the Africa Mercy. We also have volunteers that we need in critical positions. And we pray that God sends us those volunteers that we need for those positions. And then also praying for COVID, for those frontline workers that are now working with COVID, and also for overall, just those people that could be afflicted, praying for their safety and wellness.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're out of time, but thank you so much, Laura, for joining us here on Pop Talk and sharing about Mercy Ships. What an amazing vision that Don Stevens had. And I know God is, don't you think, Rosemary, God is smiling down on this effort. It's just an unbelievable ministry. So if you want to find out how you can help, maybe you want to volunteer to be on a Mercy Ship, you can go to mercyships.org and all the information will be there, won't it, Laura?
Yes, and actually we have a campaign going on called Make Your Mark. And so you can go to mercyships.org/Make Your Mark. It talks about all the volunteers and how you can make your mark and participate and join our family.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. We feel like we're part of the family now.
And it's really beautiful because the name Mercy,
yes,
is profound.
Yeah, I think it's great. And we'll be praying for you, as you proceed and get back to business. And we'd love for you to reach out to us here at pearlsofpromiseministries.com. You can find us at our website, pearlsofpromiseministries.com. Email us. Tell us what you thought about the show, info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, @Pop Talk Media. We're also on Instagram, @Pop_Ministries.
And Pop Talk is now on 9 television platforms. What a blessing.
Yes.
Yeah, what a blessing.
And we want to thank our production studio today, Grace Point Media. For all of your media needs, go to gracepoint.media. So that is Pop Talk for today. We're just ordinary girls.
Well, God's turning into pearls.
Have a great rest of your week.